Hello, everyone, and welcome to the South Carolina Life Science webinar. My name is Nicolette Macklin, and I'm a representative from the South Carolina Department of Commerce's Europe office. On behalf of our office and today's speakers, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Our Europe office is located in Munich, Germany, and we are here to assist European-based companies like yourselves that are interested in expanding physical locations into the U.S. market. And we provide free of charge advisory support regarding market and industry information, details on workforce development, support finding the right facility, and guidance on resources that you can continue to use even after you locate in the state. So our aim as an agency is to make the process of entering the US market as easy as possible. So our support ranges depending on the needs of your company. To accomplish this, we work with several partners in the state to ensure that our companies know who to speak with when it comes to establishing their business, and also so that they have the tools and resources they need to get their operations up and running. So today we have several speakers that are all familiar with the market, the industry, and working with international companies. And they are here to provide you with an overview of why you should consider South Carolina as a potential location for your future operations. So whether you are currently focused on building your sales from your current home base, or if you are just starting to consider the US market as a potential place for a new facility, it's never too early to engage with us. And we hope that today puts South Carolina on your radar. Please feel free to send any questions that you have for the speakers in the chat box, and we will answer them at the end of today's program. If we are unable to answer your question today, we will be sure to follow up with an answer. But before we get started, we want to see just how many of you have been to South Carolina before. So in a few seconds, you'll see a poll pop up, and if you can take just a few minutes to let us know if you've ever been to South Carolina. Just a few more seconds. All right, thank you for taking the time to fill that out. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Philip Morgan. He is a senior project manager for the South Carolina Department of Commerce. So he is actually located in our main office, which is in Columbia, South Carolina. His focus is the life science industry, and he has played a role in helping many international companies open a manufacturing facility, a warehouse, or an office space within South Carolina. So I'd like to welcome Philip Morgan.
Thank you, Nicolette, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone. We're thrilled to be able to join you for this webinar and introduce a little bit more to the world, to South Carolina, particularly in the life science industry. As Nicolette said, I'm a project manager with the Department of Commerce, which is our industry recruitment arm of the state. And our goal is to help in any way we can companies that are looking to potentially open up a facility in the United States, and we'd like to see them call South Carolina home like we do. Generally, I'd like to start off, since we have such a robust panel to be able to discuss more specific matters, but I'd like to talk about the state in general and what we can do as an agency to help with companies that are looking to come in. As you can see, we're state located on the eastern seaboard of the United States, a very strategic location along the eastern seaboard between New York City and Miami. For logistical reasons, most of our companies find that highly advantageous. Most of the population of the United States lives within a 3-day drive of our state, and the infrastructure, if you could maybe hop on to the next slide there, the infrastructure allows for that easy access across the state, and then also across the eastern side of the country. Speaking of infrastructure, we do have this robust highway system within the state that allows us that access. We've got the international airports within easy access to our major city areas, and Columbia and Greenville, Charleston, Charlotte, and the Augusta area. And we have railroads if you need them. The railroads crisscross the state, allowing for that infrastructure as well. And of course, our port system as well. The Charleston port, the most efficient port on the East Coast, and growing by the day to be able to accommodate business and industry needs. Get on the next one, Nicola. So South Carolina as a business climate and support for business, widely recognized by many publications as being a strong place to do business in the United States. We're proud of that. That's something that we continue to work on, and our government supports enthusiastically. We want to work with businesses. We want to cultivate this climate that allows businesses to be successful, and we want to partner with them so that they will continue to be successful and grow within the state of South Carolina. It is a low cost of doing business, lower than the average of the United States. Our utility costs are generally lower than across the United States, and our workforce costs are going to be lower across the United States as well, providing those advantages to companies that are coming into the state. So a little more from an international perspective. South Carolina is connected on a global scale. That's something that we've worked on here at the Department of Commerce for a long while, and making those international inroads and being able to utilize the strategic location of the state and the assets that we've built in the port to be able to connect on an international level, whether you're importing raw materials or exporting finished goods. We are globally connected, as the slide says, and able to really just get that support around the world. You can see here some of the significant brands that we have in the state from an international perspective, as well as the United States companies that are on this list as well. International recruitment is a focus of South Carolina, and it's something we're proud of. We're going to get to a slide here shortly that's going to show just how connected we are around the world. But you can see, and there it is. See a number of those companies that you would know, you would recognize easily, that call South Carolina home or have a strong presence in South Carolina. We love to show this. This is something we're very proud of in South Carolina, that we have such a strong international presence in the state. It is one where on a per capita basis, we are continually number one in the international presence within the state, as opposed to the other states in the country. And the part I like about it the best is, even if you break it out from a non-per capita basis, we're consistently in the top 5 of just how much international activity we have in the state of South Carolina. So it's activity we support, it's activity we want and activity that we're going to continue to recruit here to the state of South Carolina. More specifically, and of course we're going to go into more depth on this. I think we even borrowed this information from the next speaker that's going to come on. But I wanted to give a little focus of the life science sector in that we do have more than 650 life science firms. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam gets on here and has a higher number than that to share with you. But it is a sector that is growing within South Carolina. It is one that we have a focus on. It's one of my focuses as a project manager with the state of South Carolina, and certainly one that we are continuing to support and to bring more of this sector and this type of business to take advantage of the strategic advantages in the state and grow with us and partner with us. I'd like to mention certainly at least one of our more prominent, I'll call it an incentive here that we offer in the state of South Carolina. Without workforce, you don't have business. Workforce training is such a crucial part of establishing yourself in a new place and continuing to grow in that new place. And our workforce training, Ready SC, is second to none here in South Carolina. We partner with our technical colleges who interact directly with companies coming in that are creating new jobs to establish a pool of potential employees that are trained and ready to go, able to start on day one when your facility opens. And all of this at no cost to the company. It is a program that is specifically designed for your needs, and whatever you might need to do, they can assist with in building that workforce to be ready for you on day one. Some of the other incentives that we do offer, that's something that we roll through the state. We certainly have certain tax incentives for state corporate income tax and be able to alleviate that. And then also discretionary incentives. We have gotten more aggressive with potential grants and other incentives to be able to attract companies in this industry, in the life science sector to South Carolina, because it is a focus, because it is such an attractive type of business to have here in South Carolina. And we'd love to have that discussion with anybody that might be coming into the state and opening up their facility here. I would like to stress that we are here at the Department of Commerce to be flexible with your needs and what you need, whether it's information, whether it's connecting with allies that we have here in the state. We're a state of a little over 5 million people. It's right in the middle of, if you ranked the states 1 through 50, we're right there in the middle in terms of population. The advantage of that and our size is we know everybody that you need to get in touch with, and we know all the players in South Carolina. So if you come here and you're looking for information, I may not have all the answers. I probably don't have all the answers, but I know how to get people that have the answers for you to the table to be able to have that conversation with you, so we can continue the discussion of potentially locating in South Carolina. And with that, again, I'd like to thank Nicolette for putting this together, a colleague of mine. And certainly, I know I'm looking forward to everyone else on the panel and perhaps answering some questions when we're done here. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Philip. You mentioned one thing about, our agency being super flexible to the needs of a company. And I think that is just really important to reemphasize to everyone. So we work on a project management basis. So even though you may connect with me first, like Philip said, there is just an extensive network throughout our state that allows us to be able to connect you with whoever you need. So whether you're working with us in the Europe office or you're working with Philip and the rest of our team directly in South Carolina, you always have a point of contact at every part of your process. And so another point of contact that working with us you'll likely be introduced to is our SC Bio organization. So this is an organization that is dedicated to the life science related industries and advancements within our state. And just before we get started with your presentation, Sam, you know, we want to see how many companies are considering at this point a physical location within the state. And so we're going to put up a poll for you all to fill out. You may not be considering at the moment if you are just thinking about building up your sales, but this information will allow us and SC Bio to be able to figure out exactly how we can help you guys going forward. So if you can, just take a few seconds. You should see a poll pop up on your screen. Just a few more seconds. All right, everyone, I'd like to reintroduce again Mr. Sam Kondoris, the President and CEO of the SC Bio organization.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and good day. I know we're in a lot of time zones right now. Thank you, Nicolette. Let me also express my appreciation to all of you participating today that are exploring expansion opportunities in the United States and are willing to strongly consider South Carolina. I would like to build on that high-level overview of our state that was provided by my colleague, Philip, and take you deeper into the rapidly evolving life science industry that is thriving in South Carolina. And next screen, please. All right, we're working our way to the next screen, but I'll start by just saying SC Bio's overarching mission is to build, advance, innovate, and grow the life science industry and supporting ecosystem in our amazing state. And it's our privilege to share that largely unknown but compelling story to targeted audiences around the world, such as yourself. And this screen right here would show you that as a state that is ranked #1 in foreign direct investment 3 of the last 5 years, establishing global connections is one of our absolute top priorities. And in a pre-COVID era, we traveled the world routinely to connect with people and companies like yourselves. Needless to say, we miss it, and we look forward to returning to Medica and beyond in a safer future time. But we canvass the world really as a very integrated team, as you can see from the photo showing from Bio International in 2019, top right, where SC Bio was joined by our Lieutenant Governor and our Deputy Secretary of Commerce. Next. This also just reinforces the fact that gratefully South Carolina is one of the fastest growing states in the country, and life sciences is definitely keeping pace with that thriving growth. key data points were developed through an economic impact study conducted 4 years ago that told a very fact-based story that pleasantly surprised even us, revealing an industry approaching a $12 billion annual economic impact. And we know that number is substantially higher now based on a steady influx of new companies and investments over the past 3 years. Next. That growth has now made life sciences the fastest growing segment of South Carolina's innovation economy, even outpacing automotive and aerospace. Perhaps more astonishing is the fact that there are 678 life science firms now calling South Carolina home, representing all 6 major segments of that global industry, and they are incredibly well distributed throughout every region of our beautiful state. Next. South Carolina has long been known as one of the most productive places on earth, and life science industry continues a very proud culture and heritage of exceptional advanced manufacturing with leading edge, highly automated facilities across the state, producing everything from respiratory therapies to active pharmaceutical ingredients to a plethora of medical devices. Next. But we don't just make it, we innovate. And we're getting remarkably stronger in our innovation capabilities year after year with an ecosystem of talent, assets, resources that is helping South Carolina truly become a window to the future of this massive global industry. Next. And every major segment of life sciences is well represented in the Palmetto State, including a surging pharmaceutical and biotech sector. Next. And that sector is anchored by magnificent campuses and companies such as NEPHRON Pharmaceuticals, which you're going to hear a lot more about in the next segment as the owner and CEO of that incredible company with a great story, now one of the fastest growing biotech companies in America. And she also serves as the dynamic chair of the board of directors of SC Bio, showing that public-private commitment for us to grow this industry together. Next. Another iconic global biotech company with a major South Carolina presence is Thermo Fisher Scientific. They're producing API in a former Roche facility with 2 11-story reactors on a state-of-the-art 1,400-acre campus in the eastern part of the state. Next. And in a state that is phenomenally good at building some of the world's best cars and airplanes, you can correctly surmise that the medtech medical device sector is booming in the Palmetto State. Next. Global powerhouses like Abbott, producing pacemakers and defibrillators that have also been innovated at that site with over 27 patents around that product portfolio developed in South Carolina on that site, represent strong multi-decade institutions that are a big part of the medtech industry in the Palmetto State. Next. Arthrex is another great story. This is one of our newest entrants that moved to the state about 3 years ago, now building a magnificent campus employing about 1,000 people, could have gone anywhere in the country and chose South Carolina. They're one of the most globally renowned medtech companies in the arena of surgical instrument and implants, and they're also an innovation machine with over 1,000 novel ideas in their pipeline at any given time, and they've already seen the benefits of teaming up directly with our research universities, with our surgeons and others that help them innovate. Next. But it doesn't stop there. The AI and health IT revolution is alive and well in South Carolina with an extraordinary portfolio of companies that are building in the state, growing in all of our regions. And we have institutions like the Medical University of South Carolina, which is currently ranked as one of the top 5 telemedicine centers of excellence in the United States. Next. Another great example is a company called ChartSpan, and this is really demonstrative evidence of people can come from anywhere and build and succeed in South Carolina. These 2 gentlemen came from Houston, Texas, participated in an accelerator in Greenville, South Carolina, where they managed to develop the most downloaded healthcare app in the country over a period of months. Let's fast forward 4 years later. They have become the largest chronic care management services company in the United States with well over 300 employees and moved into a 100,000 square foot facility in downtown Greenville. Next. The research, testing, and medical labs sector is proliferating in South Carolina as well, and clearly front and center in the midst of a pandemic. Some examples I'll give, and we'll jump next, is the Greenwood Genetics Center. This is a globally renowned research institute that specializes in rare genetic diseases. They literally have a global patient base based on their specialization. They do clinical trials with international pharmaceutical companies from all over the globe and are armed with tools such as a 7,000 zebrafish laboratory, where the zebrafish are literally used as avatars to mimic human response to experimental drugs. Next. Vicor Scientific is also a fantastic South Carolina story, homegrown by two entrepreneurs in the Charleston, South Carolina area. Vicor is now one of the fastest growing diagnostics companies in the United States, well over 400 employees and growing. They are currently capable of processing over 20,000 COVID-19 PCR test kits every night, coming from all 50 states. So they have been really one of those incredibly important companies in helping us navigate our way through the pandemic. Next. Bioscience distribution is also an important component of life sciences, based on the need to ensure that drugs arrive all over the world, safe and efficacious, temperature controlled, monitored all along the way. One of the largest European pharmaceutical packaging companies chose Greenville, South Carolina as its Western Hemisphere headquarters, operations, and training center, and built this beautiful facility about 2 years ago along I-85. Next. As we move kind of toward a wrap, what I'd like to really reinforce is this is perhaps the most talent demanding industry in the world, and we understand that in South Carolina. And so the partnerships that are forged and integrated with our efforts with all of our major research universities and research institutes is really dynamic. They each have very unique subject matter expertise and content experts, and we are able to make a pathway to those universities and to those academic researchers available to the companies that choose to do business here and conduct leading edge innovation as well as producing product. Next. And we also have a laser focus on healthcare, a very complex industry that we are intertwined with that is, needing more and more reinvention. And life sciences is the solution provider to that. So our board of directors and stakeholders are loaded with the healthcare industry, providers, clinical champions, and beyond. And with health science centers like Prisma, one of the 30 largest healthcare providers in the nation, and the Medical University of South Carolina, actually the oldest medical school in the Southeast United States, but 4 med schools, multiple institutes connected with our 90+ hospitals in the state. We're able to also create pathways for companies to engage directly with clinical champions and healthcare administrators. Next. And one of our most important ongoing efforts is just to constantly develop strategies where we deepen and strengthen the talent pool needed by this industry. And we're making huge progress in that, ensuring that the curriculums associated with our institutions of our higher learning are highly relevant to our industry leaders. And we constantly thrust the academic world in the room with industry leaders to make sure that there is great alignment. Next. Policy is also important in this most regulated of all industries, and we have very powerful relationships with our elected officials at both the federal and the state level, and a very active voice of industry strategy where we want to constantly make sure that the prosperity of our life science companies is supported by great policy. Next. This has never been more important than during a global pandemic that has impacted every single one of us personally, and the life sciences industry needed to come to the forefront to rapidly provide solutions. And this picture is particularly meaningful to me because it's 6 of the top CEOs of major life science companies in the state, all of which had unique value propositions on how to battle this pandemic, sitting with the governor of the state, talking in great detail about the challenges and the opportunities that that life sciences working hand in hand with our state could achieve together. Next. Partnerships are everything for us in South Carolina. We are collaborators by nature and by culture, and it's been exciting to see many of our big institutions. In this case, you see a photo where the Medical University of South Carolina developed a very dynamic ongoing partnership with Siemens Healthineering, and there's many examples of this taking place. So we are constantly in a mode of facilitating partnerships and collaborations where 1 + 1 can equal 4 or 5. Next. As I wrap up, what I'd like to really focus on is incredible, unprecedented opportunities right now to invest in the United States, and I'm going to say particularly South Carolina. I think everyone realizes that this pandemic revealed weaknesses and things that a lot of us didn't understand. America felt that its global supply chain was more vulnerable than it realized in the life sciences arena. So there is incredible momentum and effort around repatriating and onshoring the life science industry onto American soil. And there are unique financing, funding mechanisms, incentives at both the federal level and the state level, and a lot of focus on working with any leading edge company in the world that is interested in bringing a life science company to US soil. So we would very much look forward to working with many of you on that basis. Next. And one of the ways that we do that is through a very engaging international landing pad strategy. This is something that the Commerce Department developed with our regions over past years, and it's been a big part of that success that Philip talked about as well. When you see that incredible map loaded with, we are one of the 2 states with the highest per capita density of foreign-owned companies in the United States, because companies have learned they can successfully penetrate the North American market from South Carolina. What SC Bio does to add to that on a team basis is provide life sciences specific support that we know life science companies from around the world need extra help. You're not always looking first at sites or buildings. You need to understand the ecosystem that is here to plug into and to support you. So our job becomes introducing you to whether it's top clinicians, healthcare leaders, academic researchers, other industry partners, working on very critically important strategies such as how to get your technology or product reimbursed by private payers or our CMS system, how to navigate the FDA most effectively, getting the kind of support you would need for clinical trials or validation studies, pilot efforts with healthcare providers, and even access to investors, innovators, and entrepreneurs. Nothing's off the table. We try to be very hands-on, sleeves rolled up, to give you high impact support that you need. And we frankly just outwork a lot of our other states. Next. It's also important to know that we have great physical destinations to house you, whether that's on in a co-working location on a campus for early stage or startup companies, or a multi-100-acre site. And we are excited to tell you there are a lot of projects looking at South Carolina right now, and our economic development teams at the state, regional, local level, SC Bio, are very busy trying to assist those. So we feel we have a solution for everybody, and would love to have some of our economic development partners in our regions and the Commerce Department show you what is available. Next. I'm going to wrap with this screen because it does show the energy level of this industry in South Carolina. We have had record-breaking SC Bio conferences where all the stakeholders that represent every critical part of the village that supports life sciences, from industry to academia to economic development to core service providers, coming together to work together on how to build and grow this industry. And we look forward to rooms that will look like that again. Our conference will be virtual in February. We hope many of you will join us February 16th to 18th to learn more about this story. I want to thank my colleagues at the Commerce Department for providing us an opportunity to share this South Carolina life science story with you today.
Thank you so much, Sam. Our agency always appreciates the knowledge, the support, and the opportunities for collaboration that your organization can provide for the companies within our state. So thank you very much for contributing everything you know, especially with the examples of companies that you're able to share. It's just phenomenal to see that, although many people may not first think of South Carolina for life science, we definitely have an ecosystem that can support the industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. We love to surprise people.
Exactly. All right, so keeping along the same lines of what support is available within the state, we want to point out that not only is there support on the state level, but we also have local level support as well. So in the earlier poll, we saw that 75% of you have actually never been to South Carolina. So we strongly encourage you to make the trip and to travel with us around the state so that you're able to see the different local regions and try all of the amazing food within our state. And so that brings me to our next speaker, Mr. David King. You will hear from him about a group of counties within the state of South Carolina.
Well, good day, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We're honored by your presence. I know there are several countries in Europe that are represented today, and my role today is simply to introduce the Central South Carolina region. Next slide. This is the Central SC Alliance team. We are a 501c3 not-for-profit public-private partnership, and we are aimed at recruiting best-in-class companies and capital investment and job creation here in the heart of South Carolina. We are primarily focused on project management, project administration, and site visits. We're going to help you with the site selection process. Our team has a comprehensive and in-depth knowledge of the site selection process. We also do marketing all over the world, marketing missions, multiple trips to Europe and throughout the world. We're engaged with lead generation with representation in Europe and also in Canada and throughout the United States. We also have dynamic research capabilities where we can put together labor market analysis, community profiles. We're happy to put together cost of doing business comparisons, where if you're considering multiple states in the United States, we will compare South Carolina to those other states that you may be considering. We work with global site consultants that are representing companies like yours that are considering the United States. And I know from where you're sitting that you're looking at America. It's a big place. And what we try to do is narrow down that funnel to get you to focus on South Carolina and Central South Carolina ideally. But if Central South Carolina is not the ideal location for you, we want you in South Carolina. Next slide, please. Philip and Sam both referenced our location. You can see we're halfway between New York and Miami. I represent 8 counties of the 46 counties in South Carolina. It's about 1 million people that live here in our 8-county region. We represent about 20% of the South Carolina landmass and about 20% of the population. So we're over 5 million people now in South Carolina. We are an in-migration state. People are moving here every day. Big numbers from the Northeast and throughout the United States relocating to South Carolina. We have a wonderful climate here. We have 4 seasons in South Carolina. Sometimes we have them all in the same week. So we have beautiful beaches, beautiful mountains, lots of water, rivers and lakes, and the quality of life here is exceptional. Next slide, please. South Carolina has numerous and great transportation network, and Philip mentioned some of the airports here, but the Columbia Metropolitan Airport here in Columbia, CAE, is the largest cargo airport in South Carolina. Last year, 1.3 million passengers came through the airport. You can see the 76,000 tons of cargo. Of course, this year, traffic is significantly down 70–80%, 35 plus nonstop daily flights. In a good year, this year we're around 15. However, we have great access to Charlotte International Airport and to Atlanta, which is about 3 hours away from where I'm sitting. The Columbia Metropolitan Airport is also home to the United Parcel Service, UPS, Southeast Region Air Hub. They can sort 42,000 packages an hour. The airport is located in a foreign trade zone. We also have U.S. Customs on site 24/7. So great airport. And we have 3 interstate highways that crisscross the city of Columbia and our region, which is the only city in the Carolinas that has that feature. And there are 5 interstates in South Carolina, 4 of which cross over in our region. But here in Columbia, I-20, I-26, and I-77 crisscross the city. And it's easy to move people around, and it's easy to move product around as well. So next slide, please. We are considered and have been ranked the most educated region in South Carolina. Over 90% of our population has at least a high school diploma or an equivalent. As you can see on the right side there, higher education, graduates by discipline. On the bottom there, you can see health professionals by far outpaces everything else. The University of South Carolina is the flagship university of our state. I won't go through all these bullets, but you can see that we've got tremendous assets here from pharmacology to research and development. We are also ranked the #1 international business school in America, and that's been a consistent ranking by U.S. News and World Report for many, many years. Next slide, please. We are, as I mentioned, the home of the University of South Carolina, and Philip referenced the technical colleges that are here in South Carolina. We actually have 4 technical schools in our region. There are 70,000 students enrolled in higher education in the central South Carolina region. And as you can see, when you combine North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, the number of universities, research universities that are within 3.5-hour drive of where I'm sitting. So 12,000 plus life sciences and related degree completions from all these universities. Next slide, please. We are a region that collaborates. We work very closely together with our partners at the South Carolina Department of Commerce, University of South Carolina, the Kennedy School of Pharmacy at the university, South Carolina Research Authority, and South Carolina Bio. It was great last year to team up with our Europe office and with South Carolina Bio to sponsor Swiss Biotech Day last April in Basel. There were over 800 attendees at that conference. And the current United States ambassador to Switzerland is a South Carolinian from here in Columbia. A little bit about Columbia growing 400 times faster than the US in pharmaceutical preparation manufacturing. We are a top 5 city for millennial migration. The average age here is 37, but with a number of graduates that are coming out of our universities, they want to remain here in the center part of South Carolina and in our state. So Columbia MSA over time has one of the highest concentrations of BFS technology in the world. And you'll hear a lot more about that here in just a few minutes. Next slide, please. So life sciences in central South Carolina is the highest growth sector in our region. NEPHRON, RhythmLink, TRC, Cardinal Health, Constantia, and Hook, Z-Verse. Just recently, NEPHRON and Z-Verse were recognized by our South Carolina Manufacturers Extension Partnership for Beyond the Call of Duty Award, which is their prestigious award for not only what the impact they have made here in South Carolina, but also in the United States of America. Next slide, please. One of the things that we do here at the Central SC Alliance, we represent properties, and this is just a sample of industrial parks, available spec buildings that we have in our region. This presentation will be sent to you afterwards, and there are video embedded links that you can click on and get a tour of these facilities. But this is just a representation. We have over 200 plus properties on our website, and I would invite you to visit centralsc.org at your convenience and learn more about our region, but also the properties that we have available here. Next slide, please. So this wraps up my presentation. This is our contact information. Welcome the opportunity to engage with you in the future. And next slide, I'm honored to have the opportunity to introduce Lou Kennedy, the CEO and founder of NEPHRON Pharmaceuticals. Back in 1992, BMW, located in South Carolina, is now the largest facility in the world. In 2007, Boeing came here with the 787 Dreamliner, and in 2011, NEPHRON Pharmaceuticals announced they were relocating to Lexington County, South Carolina, here in the Central SC region, to establish their global headquarters and their state-of-the-art facility that you're going to hear a lot about here in just a minute. And Lou is a dynamic leader here in South Carolina, but also in our country. And not only has she invested hundreds of millions of dollars and created a couple of thousand jobs here in our region, but she's also a community and state supporter of numerous organizations, nonprofits like ours and others, helping to make South Carolina a better place to live and work. So Lou, it's my honor to introduce you and thank you again for all that you do for South Carolina.
Hello, is everyone connected? It seems like an unusual screen. Nicolette, can you confirm?
Yes, you are all good to go.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us here in South Carolina via technology. We're glad to be talking with you today. I'm delighted to say that we are headquartered here in South Carolina, and it is my home, and I'm happy to be back home after 35 years away from this state. I'm very delighted that we've relocated our headquarters here, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about our company. We are a woman-owned business. We were started about 25 plus years ago and received our very first ANDA in 1997. So for 23 years, we've been marketing here in the US and beyond. We started our company using blow-fill-seal technology, and Nicolette, I'll allow you just to click on the next screen as you just follow along with what I'm saying. That'll be helpful. So to look at our timeline, you certainly can read the screen, but I'd love to tell you that we have been growing since the moment I started with our company in 2000. And in 2007, I took over as our CEO, and we've continued to grow our presence and add on and expand our company. I would say that the largest amount of growth probably has occurred since we've been located here in South Carolina, and I believe a large part of the credit goes to the support both locally and from our federal government to help us with a rapidly growing company and expansion into new and different avenues. Next slide. We are delighted to say that we did receive an International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineering Award in 2017. It highlighted the high level of automation. I would tell you that if you were to walk through our company, you would see a very European look to it, because all of our partners, with the exception of 2 pieces of equipment, all the equipment is provided from our European partners, both in Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and beyond. Next slide. So I want to tell you just a little bit about our automated formulation and some of the things that we do. We asked our lead engineer here to design an automated formulation apparatus or app for us, and you can see a screenshot of that highlighted, and it allows us to use Rockwell automation along with our tanks and other equipment, whether it be valves and other things, to automate our formulation so we absolutely have consistency every time we make a batch. Next slide, please. We do a blow-fill-seal technology, as was mentioned earlier in the presentation. And for those of you on the call from Europe, you likely recognize this more than most American companies do, because it's quite prevalent in Europe. But we absolutely make our respiratory medications, which includes albuterol, ipratropium, corticosteroid known as budesonide, an old drug known as racemic epinephrine, using the blow-fill-seal technology that you see in the next slide. And that allows us to create the container, fill the container, and seal the container in one continuous motion using no human intervention. It's known as advanced aseptic sterile filling. And we produce about 1 billion of these every single year and have for the last decade or more. And that's really the core of our business. And then I want to tell you a little bit about the rest of our business and other things that we're doing. But the BFS equipment is a rotary machine, and it does allow us to use very quick technology to be able to produce on each line 18 million doses a month. And that's how we're, with our 13 filling lines, we are able to get 1 billion doses or more a year out the door. One of the things that is important to us, and I mentioned that because we talked earlier about infrastructure and the low cost of energy, is we take our local city water and turn it into water for injection. Our drugs are 99% water for injection as the diluent, and so it's important that we have a steady and capable water system locally, and we do take advantage of the local water system and are using large amounts of water here. Next slide, please. We do operate Bosch, now known as Centagon, automated secondary packaging. And so once we've made those vials of medication that were described in the blow-fill-seal process, we then take it down to our secondary packaging area, and Bosch, of course, I've got to remember to call it Centagon now. Centagon provides for us a foil overwrap automated packaging solution, and that allows our customers in hospitals and beyond to see barcoded, easily identifiable doses of medication. Next slide, please. We are in process of expanding our warehouse capabilities by about 200,000 square feet. Right now, we have 4,400 pallet positions. That will be doubled within probably 2 months. We should be completed. We start to move in next month, well, into this month. And we use laser-guided vehicle technology provided by Electric 80 out of Italy to move those pallets and those pallets and other items around our facility using GPS technology with our laser-guided vehicles. And those have been a great system for us. It's just one thing that really was highlighted when we won that ISPE award. People, and I would say even our students who take field trips through here, love our LGVs, and so they make for a good tour. Next slide, please. We are lucky that we were able to partner with the local energy company, Dominion Energy, and they provide 23,000 kVA that we step down throughout our plant as needed. We have, as you might imagine, with as many clean rooms as we operate, a big HVAC presence here, and we are very fortunate to be supported by many different companies around the area to maintain and help us take care of that equipment. It's evident, if you have noticed from all of these slides, that we are a manufacturing state. We are often referred to as the beast of the Southeast because we are so good and so supportive of manufacturing in this state. And if you have taken a real gander at the slides that you've seen so far, you've seen many opportunities of how well our manufacturing facilities work with the research universities and other innovation throughout the state. I want to talk about a new division of our company that started about 3 years ago. And I would say that, well, we were just mentioned last week as a top 5 sterile compounding facility in the world. We do sterile compounding here. That's based on the FDA's 503B regs. We are joined by companies like Fresenius Kabi in the world that do that service. And so we are sterile compounders. We provide about 60 different products, both in IV injectable bags as well as in pre-filled syringes. And we are delighted that we're able to service the hospitals, particularly during this time of COVID. And on the top 30 COVID list, we're making 25 of those drugs and about to launch 2 or 3 more. Soon we should be hopefully able to provide all 30 of those top 30 COVID drugs. We've expanded our 503B footprint and in fact are growing it as we speak. We are taking care of many of the injectable drugs that you know that are quite common, like sodium bicarbonate and dextrose, but many others that are a little more complicated. We're probably most proud of our opioid-free pain medication that we manufacture here at NEPHRON. And one of the things we're excited about is that we're taking the opportunity to make these drugs, these sterile compounded drugs, in the short or near term for hospitals while they are on the drug shortage list, but we're rapidly applying for permanent ANDAs or generics to add to our pipeline so that we are larger than just a respiratory generic firm. We are expanding into other drug categories. We received, I think, 3 or 4 approvals just since the COVID timeframe, and we're pleased to say that the FDA has really worked swiftly during these last 9 to 12 months to get a lot of things approved to help out not only for COVID, but for other things. We are delighted that as a 503B sterile compounder, we are the only sterile finished dosage manufacturer in the US and are therefore very capable at our CGMP abilities. And so we think that the FDA has inspected us so many times, perhaps just to see that we are extending our CGMP capabilities straight from manufacturing over into our 503B area. One of the ways that we're able to benefit from the strong talent pool here in South Carolina and the great workforce that we're able to hire is we have a very robust boot camp that we are able to serve our employees. So for 2 straight weeks, our company actually puts our employees through boot camp, and it doesn't matter what department. We want everyone. If you're a chemist or an engineer, we want you to know that microbiology is important and other parts of our company are important. And so that boot camp is where we introduce folks during the first part of training. And then once you graduated from boot camp, you then start to begin your on-the-job training and other types of training here that we have at NEPHRON. We also have great partnerships with the technical college system and the university, which allow us to do sterile training for our pharmacists, pharmacy techs, and quality personnel. And that's been a real boom for us. We partnered with the Department of Labor and built an apprentice program here for sterile pharmacy tech. We're extending that into welding and mechatronics, as well as a chemistry technology apprenticeship program. And all of that's been made capable by the hard work that's been done by Midlands Tech, the Orangeburg Calhoun Technical System, and certainly the University of South Carolina. In fact, just a year or so ago, we were asked to bring 2 of our apprentices to the White House. You'll see a picture of that in the next slide. And we celebrated our ability to reskill and retrain the workforce here in our company, along with other manufacturing and types of facilities across South Carolina. I would like to add, if you'll look at the next slide, that once COVID hit in a big way in March, we decided to add a CLIA certified lab to our company. We were able to get that done very quickly, in large part due to our great partnership with the South Carolina delegation in Washington. They helped us navigate that process. And we had a CLIA lab up and running, not only to test and protect our own employees, but we partnered with Dominion Energy, some textile mills, and other companies across the state to do COVID testing for them during this pandemic. And of course, we know that that may not be a long-term play, so we've decided to add our own drug testing as of January through our own lab, as well as flu and pneumonia and other types of testing to make that CLIA certified lab even more beneficial to our NEPHRON family. Next slide. We did partner several years back, I believe it was 2010, with the University of South Carolina to build the Kennedy Pharmacy Innovation Center. And that was our attempt to show pharmacists there's more that they are able to do in their working career than just dispense prescriptions behind the counter in a retail setting or work in a hospital. So we routinely have about 25 PharmD students here from multiple different pharmacy schools across the state, where they're doing their rotations and practicums to learn big batch formulation, regulatory work, to learn about and we have an employee pharmacy, so they can even practice their retail experience here. So we have a very strong partnership with the University of South Carolina through our Kennedy Pharmacy Innovation Center. And the very first thing we did after we announced our donation to the school was to form a sterile pharmacy lab to teach aseptic technique to our students. And so future graduates, and then of course, future employees. One thing that we are delighted about is the fact that we have so many great partnerships across the state. And so one of the things that we're doing is we've added a few things that are from our European partners. Particle measuring systems, of course, I think is based here in South Carolina, but Cardex has moved from Germany to put a location one exit away from us, and we use their inventory system, as well as we've added some equipment I mentioned before, particle measuring systems to allow us to monitor clean room air 24/7 without the humans doing the sampling. And we've also added a program through Steris to be able to clean our clean rooms with a touch of a button by fogging with vaporized hydrogen peroxide, and then making it easier for our clean room staff than what we had previously. One final thing I'll talk about, we were featured on the NBC Nightly News very recently to talk about our supplemental workforce. So when we found we needed some part-time work here because we were waiting on automated equipment, we added the ability to bring in teachers and educators, coaches from our local school systems to provide that expert workforce for a part-time thing. So tasks that were quite simple, but we needed really educated folks so they could do a good job with their documentation and other things. And so we invited teachers. We have 850 of them as part of our educator workforce, and they come in on nights and weekends to help solidify the needs that we have for our workforce, and we've been very thankful to them for that. We would like to also, if you'll go to the next slide, highlight what we're doing with both the University of South Carolina and Clemson. We've asked both of the engineering pharmacy school at University of South Carolina and the robotics school, along with the microbiology team at Clemson, each of them are working on separate programs to invent and build for us robotic answer to folks in a clean room. So what will allow us to do is fill and cap a syringe of pre-filled medication, place it into a tote where a human will then come and collect that. So the university and Clemson are using robotics, AI, and other partnerships that we have with Yaskawa and Stobley Robots to invent this for us. And we see this as an opportunity not only to help our own company, but to build these robots for potential marketing around the world. Now, what do we expect in the future? We think that pharma will benefit from greater strides in track and traceability, whether it be through blockchain or the use of virtual reality for training. We see a lot of innovation coming our way. There are a couple of companies that are really leading the way to use virtual reality for training, located right here in the upstate of South Carolina. And I'm anxious to partner with them to see what we can do to improve our training capabilities and so forth. Now, as I wrap up, I think it's important for you to know why we decided to leave Florida here in the United States and move to South Carolina. We did that, well, I see here on the screen that we didn't mention, and I want to highlight it before I move to our story. If you look on the screen, you will see that we have a full visual corridor. We're one of only 4 or 5 companies in the world to have a complete 100% viewing corridor so that we could be able to tour not only inspectors, but also visitors, and most importantly, students and teachers. They're able to see all of our process through glass. That's important because here in the United States, if you're under the age of 11, you're not allowed on a factory floor. So this way we can bring in students at early ages and their teachers to hopefully inspire them to add what we do into the curriculum to help us grow, build, and train future employees. Now, I will move to the story of our company. We were in Florida for about 15 or 16 years, and we just were not getting the support that we really needed in manufacturing. Florida is really a tourism state. And while we're great at tourism here in this state, we're also known as a manufacturing state. So we're lucky that we benefit from the support and ecosystem that the state provides to help us with the permitting process and so forth. So we look to expand our company into South Carolina, as David mentioned, around 2011. We'd made our official announcement late 2011 that we were going to start to build in 2012. We were supported by a county that allowed us to get through the permitting process in, I'm not kidding, 6 days. 6 days we were able to present our plans, and the county moved us through that permitting process, and we broke ground in 2012. The contractors were so supportive here that we were able to build this 400,000 square foot facility as quickly as 2 years and 10 weeks, which I believe is some sort of a record. And you see our facility pictured on the screen just now. So from the permitting process through to the FDA approval in fall of 2015, we've been growing like crazy, so much so that we are out of office space, out of warehouse space, and we announced that we're so happy with the state of South Carolina and our local county and the economic development world and ecosystem here in this state that we are adding to our facility 200,000 square feet to do secondary packaging and warehousing. We've outgrown our machine shop, and we're giving them a 20,000 square foot machine shop. We have started the pouring footers for a vaccine wing that we hope to fill vaccines, chemotherapeutic products, and antibiotics. That started about 3 weeks ago. That'll add another 110,000 square feet. We're lucky that our park is in an opportunity zone, and I encourage you to Google that and understand that there are a lot of tax incentives for companies that are building their facilities and adding jobs in America, especially if they're in an opportunity zone. So my husband and I are expanding a 260,000 square foot innovation complex in this opportunity zone and in our industrial park. We're building a 10-acre parking lot, and we were recently asked by the federal government to consider building an API, or active pharmaceutical ingredient plant. And so we've presented plans to the federal government for a 110,000 square foot API plant, and we haven't decided to pull the trigger on that. But if we do, that would allow us to say we have 1 million square feet under roof by, potentially the first quarter of next year. So we're supported by great contractors on the construction side. We're supported by our economic development partners in Central SC. And then we love our partnership with SC Bio. I'm pleased to be the chairman of that and love working with our wonderful infrastructure and network of life science companies across the state. And I would love to say we welcome you to our state. We'd like to have you as our neighbor. We'd like to have you as a part of our ecosystem. And I thank you very much, Nicolette and team, for including me today. If you come to South Carolina, allow us to host you, as well as SC Bio and our partner in Central SC Alliance, along with the Department of Commerce. Thanks so much. I'm kicking it over to my good friend, Stephanie Few, who, if you decide to come to South Carolina, she can help you with your legal needs in terms of economic development and moving into our great state. So Stephanie, I'll kick it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lou, and it's wonderful to be with you all today. Nicolette, do you want to say anything before I get started?
Yes, I was just going to thank you, Lou. We are truly grateful for your participation in today's event, and your experience in South Carolina doesn't only show how the state functions, but it also is a testimony that a company can come to our state, thrive, and be successful nationwide from within our borders. But thank you again, Lou. And now, Stephanie, we would definitely like to hear from you regarding, navigating the FDA process and legal considerations when coming into the US. But before you kick it off, I would like to just do a poll to see how many of our attendees today actually have FDA approval, since you will be someone that can help them out with that. So in a few seconds, you should see a poll pop up asking about FDA approval. Just a few more seconds. All right, again, I'd like to welcome Stephanie Few with Womble Dickinson.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Nicolette. I've enjoyed so much listening to all of the wonderful speakers today. I always learn every time I hear my dear friend Lou speak, or Philip Morgan at the Department of Commerce, Nicolette, Sam Conduras, David. I mean, just a tremendous amount of knowledge in today's program. So thank you for all that I've learned during this program. My name is Stephanie, and I practice at Womble Dickinson, and I have the great pleasure of working with companies when they are moving into the United States. I co-chair the economic development team for my law firm, and we have 1,200 lawyers around the world. Over 50% of the deals that I work on are based overseas. So my day-to-day practice, typically 7 days a week, is helping companies navigate when they are based overseas and looking to come into the United States. I'm physically based in Charleston, South Carolina, so I am quite partial to South Carolina, and while my work covers other areas, South Carolina is my home. And I can personally say what a tremendous experience. I've had the great pleasure of watching companies for the last 2 decades who have set up shop, who have located in South Carolina and expanded within South Carolina, just say over and over again what a great place South Carolina is to do business and to call home. So I am biased, but it's well learned. South Carolina is a wonderful, wonderful place. Our law firm has dual headquarters. We are in North Carolina and also in London. I was just talking to one of my partners in London a couple of days ago, and he was asking what Halloween looks like in the US. And so we were comparing notes. I think it's quite different from what our friends overseas experience. But there are certain challenges and complexities that you all will face when you move overseas, whether you are relocating entirely or whether you are just locating a particular, doing an expansion project and locating a division of your company in South Carolina. My history at this law firm was originally started with public company mergers and acquisitions. And that was out of North Carolina. Then I moved to South Carolina, and which I just fell in love with and have been here for a very long time. But the same teams of people that I worked with in the public company mergers and acquisitions work are the exact same teams of people that touch the complexities that European companies encounter. So our corporate practice, the cross-border transactions, cross-border procurement, your tax matters, it gets very, very complicated very quickly. So it's good to know that you have a great team around you to support you and work through all of the complexities that you will have when you decide to do business in South Carolina. I was working with a company a couple of weeks ago based overseas, and they shared a wonderful story that I think is very true and very telling of what it's like to be in South Carolina. They said that they had visited several times, and they said that they noticed time and time again that there was a big difference in South Carolina compared to where they were moving here from. And I asked what that was, and they said that back home, when they're doing business with people, that in business, people have to earn their trust, that they start from a place of not trusting the people that they interact with in their work transactions. They said that in their interactions in South Carolina and with the level of support that they have felt from the South Carolina Department of Commerce and from the communities in which they are considering locating in South Carolina, that it's quite the opposite. They said in South Carolina, they feel like they can lead from a place of trust, that they should start with the feeling that they can trust those with them they are interacting from a business perspective. So whether that's on the government side or other businesses that they're going to be working with in South Carolina. And I thought that was a really great story and is very telling of the very positive experience so many of our companies have. I will say also Philip Morgan touched on this, but there are a tremendous amount of incentives for companies that are looking to call South Carolina home. We are known for economic development. South Carolina is known as a state that makes things. We are known to just excel in recruiting companies to locate here and in keeping them happy and creating an environment in which those companies can expand. So you can count on tremendous support in the form of discretionary incentives if certain numbers are met. So we always look at, there's a 5-year snapshot of capital investment and job creation. And that type of information will give us the ability to assess what discretionary incentives may be open to a company, both at the local level and at the state level, to support you as you relocate in from overseas, or whether you expand your presence that you already have in South Carolina. And again, those incentives come at the local level and at the state level. And South Carolina has proven to be quite competitive and quite successful at landing some huge international companies. So you can see that the incentives work quite well. I will say though, don't let that scare you. Sometimes companies say, but I'm not a, name the company, BMW, Volvo, Boeing, those big companies that everyone knows around the globe. And those are wonderful. And the state does a beautiful job working those projects. I love working those projects. But the bread and butter in South Carolina are those smaller projects, $10 to $15 million capital investment, 20 to 30 jobs, going up to 100 jobs. Those are the size of deals that we all work on a daily basis. And those are the projects, when you start getting into that range, that discretionary incentives may come in play for you. So those are some areas that we would explore together. I will say, like we touched on, some legal considerations that you're going to want to think through on the corporate side when you are considering whether or not to call South Carolina home. You're going to be looking into, cross-border negotiated transactions. One of the very first questions and one of the very first items that we will work on together is your domestic and your international corporate formation, or perhaps reorganization. You may be organized in a certain way overseas, and your presence in the United States may look quite different. You may have a different corporate entity in another state within the United States, and we will want to really understand and analyze with you the extent of your business processes that you plan on doing in South Carolina, and then coming at that from a very analytical perspective on what would be the best business formation for you to have in South Carolina. You are going to have global supply chain agreements. You're going to have cross-border procurement issues. And we have a great team of people that can support you through that process. Like I said, we have 1,200 lawyers around the globe. In the US, we have offices from Los Angeles to Boston. I am in Charleston, South Carolina. For my companies alone, last year, I had 97 attorneys at my firm work to support my companies. So you can see it's not that just, certainly every project is different because every company is so unique, and you bring with you your needs that are highly specific to your business processes, the types of contracts you are going to be doing in this country, the types of business you're going to be engaging in within South Carolina. So it's our job to learn your business and to learn your needs and to make sure that we have a supportive structure around you to help you think through those corporate items. On the FDA side, that gets very, very interesting very quickly. And South Carolina has really, particularly with what the world is going through this year, we're not out of it yet, certainly. There's always been a passion for the life sciences industry in South Carolina. In the last few years, with the leadership of SC Bio, with Sam Conjuris, with Lou Kennedy, with the support of the Department of Commerce and our General Assembly, that passion and that fire has just grown to be exponentially even more than it was. We all have realized the importance of this industry more than I think we ever knew. We've also realized the importance of having companies here in South Carolina to be able to support our own state. So I think you have certainly seen an increased amount of passion and support and drive to support these companies. The FDA process is complicated. It is important. It is something that you are going to need to approach carefully and cautiously and with excellent guidance. I will say from our firm's experience, we're the largest law firm in the Carolinas, and we have a terrific life sciences team. And I have the great pleasure to work with this team, many of whom have PhDs. Their world is completely different than mine, which on a day-to-day basis is, I'm straight corporate. But you know, I talked with them in preparing to talk with you this morning because I bring them in to work with our life sciences companies. And the types of issues that we're going to want to look at and that you're going to want to consider are your patent procurement and investigations, your trademark, your data, your copyrights, your licenses, the FDA regulatory advice and representation, your new drug application process, complex license arrangements, your commercial agreements, your conducting privacy and security assessments. These are all highly specialized areas of the law, and you're going to want to start by surrounding yourself with a great team from the very beginning, whether that's us or someone else, to help you think through all of those steps, because you will have to cross over these certain regulatory items in the United States. And this is all going to be very new for you. Just as if you had companies in the US that went into Europe, it would be a very new process than what our companies are used to. So you have great energy and drive and support and passion in the state of South Carolina to support you, but you also have a lot of people on the corporate side, the tax side, on the FDA, the regulatory side, to help you navigate what may be a new system for you, for the rules and regulations that you will need to adhere to. So the best advice that our team gives is to surround yourself with that team early, not later, so you're not playing catch up, and you know exactly what it looks like. Two of the key people in our team that works with our life sciences company, we have a former US FDA regulatory counsel, and we also have a female scientist who is just extraordinary, who I've had the great pleasure of working with for quite some time with my clients. She has a PhD in molecular and cellular biology, and she is our regulatory scientist and works with companies working with the FDA process toward market authorization. So they are kind of the two key leaders of this team that I work with, and they have a huge team of scientists, PhDs, and attorneys that work to support the efforts. So my message to you is you will have a wonderful experience if you choose to investigate calling South Carolina home. You will find an environment with people that you can trust to do business and that you can count on. And I'll tell you another thing. South Carolina doesn't do just a great job through Nicolette's efforts and the Department of Commerce and SC Bio and all of our regional economic development groups in the state. We don't only do a great job of encouraging you to visit and to visit with industry leaders like the powerhouse that is Lou Kennedy, But we also do a good job once you're here, and that's really important. And I've heard that for the last 2 decades from clients as well, that South Carolina not only wants you to come here, we also want you to thrive here. And we look at you as part of our family. And so we encourage you to come visit. We encourage you to look to us for support. And we promise to you that you have our commitment and our passion, and that we are in this with you for you to thrive and excel in South Carolina. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for your input on all of the different legal concerns that companies should take into consideration. We know that, navigating the way each state does their taxes or just general business processes differs quite a bit. So taking advantage of the resources that Stephanie has, it's definitely beneficial when looking to establish. But with that said, that concludes our program for today. But we did want to allow a few questions. And so if I can have all of the speakers come back on with their videos, we're going to try to fit in at least 2 to 3 questions during this time. And if we do not get to your question right now, we will be sure to follow up with you with the answers that you are looking for. And you also have an opportunity, if you would like, to schedule a one-on-one meeting with myself or with any of the other speakers here today. But first, I would like to go ahead and pitch a question over to Sam that we received. So Stephanie, I think you kind of segued into this about helping companies even after they locate within the state. So Sam, if you can, I'd like you to touch base on how has COVID and federal legislations opened up new opportunities, particularly for South Carolina businesses.
Sure thing, and I'm proud to be sitting shoulder to shoulder with our chair, and she's going to be very related to part of my answer. It's a team sport in South Carolina, Nicolette, like we said. So we love working together. COVID has been catastrophic for so many people, and one of the toughest years for everybody. But there are silver linings. They're real, and some things have been catalyzed by this pandemic that will make us stronger and better. And the life science industry has received a level of attention like never before. It's in the forefront, and really of our elected officials, and Nicolette, just being very transparent. Again, when we realize that over 90% of most of the drugs that Americans take are all made overseas, 95% of vitamin C, 97% of antibiotics, that's a vulnerability that we don't want to have. While America is still known as the great innovator in this industry, we really let production move aside. So the NEPHRON story is so compelling to see state-of-the-art, innovative, advanced manufacturing companies on American soil producing for this market. Right now, through unique efforts of the federal government, which are truly unprecedented, a United States Development Finance Corporation coupled with efforts with the Department of Defense, Health, Human Safety, BARDA, and other agencies, there are financing mechanisms that are available to companies that want to establish life science facilities on American soil. Now, particularly if it's part of Warp Speed, a COVID solution, that really puts you in the front of the line. But it extends all the way to the medical device industry and PPE and what have you. So when you combine that with a state as aggressive as South Carolina on not only our traditional incentives, but discretionary incentives, and our efforts that everybody's hearing about today, how we work together just to provide a really unusual level of high impact support and handholding even to the companies that are willing to look at our state. We are trying to position our state as the place to go in this era. And if it's okay, Nicolette, with Lou sitting right next to me, she mentioned some things, but we have living examples right now. We have very active projects on onshoring repatriation that are taking advantage of some of these things that I'm referencing at a high level, and literally on a campus around NEPHRON, some of that's going to be landing. Lou?
Yes, what I can tell you is that I mentioned that we are building the Kennedy Innovation Complex in this industrial park. We have 2 companies slated for 80,000 square feet of it, but that leaves 160,000 square feet for companies just like those of you who are on this call. So we've made it a point between ourselves, Commerce, and the county to really look at healthcare life sciences. And I'm pleased to say that the county has never received more phone calls and inquiries about South Carolina than in the most recent 3 or 4 months. And I do believe it's because we have available inventory. There'll be 160,000 square feet finished in our building in the first quarter, and there's another 100,000 square foot building being completed as we speak just down the street. So what happens is allows a company to say, I'd like to be based in South Carolina, and make the decision, talk to Commerce, talk to your attorney, get some incentives or other package put together to make it worth your while to move here, and absolutely hand over the key, walk in, and begin to do business. And what's nice about South Carolina is our governor and other officials really want to get you up and in business quickly. And so they're very willing to work with you at a moment's notice and make sure that you are in business, making money, turning a profit as quickly as possible. And as I mentioned, we were permitted in 6 days and profitable within 2 years. So those are real numbers that you can see as a business owner. You can make this happen and make it happen quickly based on the great support system that's been built here in South Carolina, even down to the training apprentice programs and our Ready SC program that David mentioned. So yes, we are excited that at least 4 companies that have approached us are all PPE related or healthcare life sciences related just in the last 2 months.
And Nicolette, forgive, one more comment I want to make is this. This is an important recruiting process right now where we hope that we can interest a lot of other leading edge companies to want to come be part of this thriving ecosystem. But job one, the reason for the existence of SC Bio is to, take care of those 678 companies that have banked their future on the state. So existing industry is number one. Once you get here, we want you to prosper and grow and be giving testimonials like Lou Kennedy in the next few years. So we're going to do everything we can to stay with you, not just the first couple of years, but forever. And you got a great integrated team that is going to be really at your beck and call, because industry is so respected in the state of South Carolina.
We give each other cell phones. It's very personal here.
We do.
Well, Lou, you touched on a few things about the workforce and partnering with universities, and we did receive a couple of questions about being able to do trials or research outside of the actual organization. So do you mind speaking a little bit about your experience and how you were able to kind of make that happen for you all?
Yes, right at NEPHRON, we have 5 projects around COVID treatments or COVID items that we are working on from all the way from here to Israel. And we are thrilled because we have 2 different research bodies working on doing the trials for those. One has been engaged around the respiratory front, and another one's been engaged with a Alzheimer's drug that NEPHRON is hoping to launch in the next year or 2. And so that being said, we've got the Moderna trials happening right in South Carolina as we speak. We've got Pfizer trials going on right now. All of the vaccines are doing respiratory trials right here in this state as we speak. So we are well suited to get our idea from the university where it might be hatched, or even in our own company, all the way through to launch and FDA approval or approval in Europe and beyond. So we have every bit of those pieces already assembled right here, available to companies to use the expertise that we have to get things from idea to profitable in very short amount of time. And so we've partnered with not just one, but all of the universities. MUSC has been a great partner, Clemson, South Carolina, the small independents, our historically Black colleges and universities have been great partners. So we look for an extension of what we do into the classroom on any given day.
Thank you. We also received a question about, is there a minimum requirement in terms of investment or job creation in order to locate to South Carolina. So David and Sam, if you all can maybe touch base, I know we have the landing pad program. So maybe if you can kind of re-emphasize how a company would qualify for the landing pad program and what support on the local level and also from SC Bio that you all are able to offer.
David, why don't you jump in on that first? Unmute.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And in South Carolina, there's no project really too small and no project too big. I mean, you heard a lot about, large companies today too, but, the landing pad program that was introduced a few years ago has been highly successful. And, through our technical college system, we have, great space available at very low cost, a lot of support there. And on the state level, Philip, I will refer to you as far as the some of the statutory incentives that are available, and Stephanie, you may want to kick in here as well on job development credits, job tax credits, and other programs that are offered through the state. And then there are certainly some incentives on a local level as well, like a fee in lieu of taxes, what we call a FELO. And then there are some grants that are available as well in South Carolina. So the key message is here in South Carolina, it's a lower cost place to do business compared to a lot of places in America. And one of the things that we can do is put together a project profile summary for you that we would ask that you would complete, and it gives us a baseline to put together an incentive map so we can demonstrate to you what a location in South Carolina would mean to your company from a cost standpoint. So, Philip.
Yeah, I would just.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on the incentive portion of that. Yeah, and reiterate that there's not a project too small for South Carolina. We don't really view projects as small to begin with. There are thresholds in the incentives and that you would have to meet to qualify for certain things, whether it be a statutory tax break or one of our discretionary incentives. But I think the important thing to note is that even if you were not to hit those thresholds, we do have support for companies coming in. That's really why the landing pad systems were devised, and we have various tangible and intangible ways that we can support companies coming in, looking to get their foot in the United States and wanting them to be here in South Carolina.
I'll reinforce a great point made by both David and Phil. And again, it shows whether the Commerce Department represented by Phil, one of our major regions represented by David, SC Bio representing the industry itself and how to help it thrive. There's no one size fits all. Over 50% of South Carolina business is considered small business. So we're proud to showcase some of the more monolithic global brands that you heard about today, Thermo Fisher Scientific and Abbott, and then you see a juggernaut company like NEPHRON. But we have a plethora of startups, early stage innovation companies, and we love growing our own companies here that can become larger over time. And you heard a couple of examples, Nicolette, that I shared. ChartSpan started with 2 people and is now the largest chronic care management firm in the United States. And that's based on all the collective support we've been talking about. Vicor Scientific started with 2 people, now arguably the fastest growing diagnostics company, or one of them in the country. So there's that evidence. And what I would say, in addition to the quantitative incentives, which are clearly going to be different for a very small operation, we understand there are companies abroad that want to get started in America, but they may need only 2 or 3 people in a kind of a headquarters and sales office with some distribution capabilities. And then we're going to work with some companies that are looking at a multi-$100-million investment. We're equipped to do it all, bring different tools to the table. And again, it's a rolled up sleeves approach. The last thing I'll say on that for the maybe some of the early stage companies that are, possibly pre-commercialization, or they're CE certified, but they're not yet, FDA approved. We have all the subject matter content experts and willingness to work with kinds of companies on all the unique challenges that they have to get through to be successful in the United States.
Thank you. Thank you. All good points. And we only have a few more minutes. So before we close, I just also wanted to pitch one question we received to Stephanie as well, in terms of what point in a company's process of evaluating the US should they go ahead and engage with the law firm?
As early as possible, and I say that because it is what the worst call in the world to get is a company that says, we decided, you may have seen it in the paper, we decided that we're coming to South Carolina and we're so excited, and we put out a press release, and now we'd love to talk to you all about what incentives, because incentives are going to be really important to support our business. And the answer is, we're too late. So, and you, aside from the FDA matters, the corporate matters, the tax matters, you want to get out in front of all of those issues and be planning early, particularly as it comes to the incentive matters. Incentives are, as a matter of public policy, there to incentivize a company to come to South Carolina. So there's tremendous support, but we need to be talking to you at the point that you are looking at other options. We need to be engaged, and it also helps the company, because you may have identified a site in South Carolina that works beautifully for what you need, but perhaps it needs a rail spur, or it's something else that isn't quite right with this site, but maybe you're competitive with Georgia. We can come in and work with your local allies like David King, and work with the state, with Philip Morgan, and we can look at any shortfalls that might position South Carolina better, because we want to win your company for this state, not just for right now, but for the rest of our lifetime, and see you thrive and grow. So the earlier you can engage a law firm, the quicker we can get in and we can start heading off some issues for you. So perhaps this site becomes, it wasn't quite perfect. We can work together with our support, with our allies at the state and at the local community, and bring incentives and resources and support to you to overcome a shortfall, so South Carolina has the great pleasure of working with the company. So the earlier, the better. The company certainly comes out much stronger when we are on the front end of issues, rather than trying to play catch up.
Well, thank you, everyone. That is all the time we have today. I want to thank again all of our speakers for this program. We appreciate you all sharing all of the knowledge and experience that you've had in the state. And thank you again to all of the companies that have also joined us. If we did not get to your question again, we will be following up with each of you after today. And I just want to reiterate one last time that it's never too early to reach out to us. It doesn't matter how big or small you consider your company. We're all available to help support you along your way. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to working with each of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.